All right. Well, I don't want to hold everyone here any later than the half hour we set out for. I'm trying to keep it. Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, Brennan, Ryan, what's up, guys? Awesome. Um, so hey, yeah, we're gonna get right into it. And like I said, I'm gonna try to keep this about a half hour so that we. What's up, David? Or Shane. So that we don't go too long. I know everyone's busy during these days, so we're going to go through, do a quick overview again, just some people maybe aren't familiar with the whole framework of what we're covering in these sessions and these insight sessions. Then we'll do a deep dive, and I'm just going to get meat potatoes of what the second key to greatness, internal locus of control, is all about. And then we will wrap up. What's up, Wesley? Then we'd wrap up, and I'll make sure we have time for a few questions, and then we'll talk about where do we go from here, right? So, I am Sean Patton. I know most of you folks, and I know there'll be other people joining, hopefully, and some people may watch this after it's recorded. But we're talking today about the 6 keys to greatness, and they're all in my book, A Warrior's Mindset. Hopefully, most of you have it. If not, go out and get it. It's on Amazon. And today I want to really deep dive into internal locus of control. Last week we talked about perspective and gratitude, which really is the foundation, right? That creates this unlimited energy that we can live our lives with, right? Irrespective of the ups and downs and motivation wanes or gains over time. But then that brings us to, okay, so we've got all this energy. We're excited about life. We're passionate. We're ready to go. But man, we can get knocked off. Things can happen. Life events. We're still dealing with trauma. We're dealing with anxiety, depression, all these things that knock us off our game. And it does us no good to have any energy if we can't control it, so we can then move on and direct it to the parts of our lives that mean the most of us. So that's what an internal locus of control is all about. So what is the difference between the internal versus external locus of control? All right, this is a psychological term, but I think it's easiest to start with external locus of control. Right? A person with a strong external locus of control has a victim mentality. Right? And some of us are more extreme. We all know people, right, who always say, oh, well, I didn't get that, but it always happens to me. Oh, I have the worst luck. Oh, I can't catch a break these days. Oh, the other people just got lucky. Right? You see how whether it's a positive or negative, right? Even if they get a promotion, they're like, well, I guess it was my time. Right? Whether it's a positive or negative, anything that happens in their life, they're giving the credit, right? They're saying that the cause of the effects in their life are coming from outside them. That the world is happening to them. Right? These people are caught in a constant cycle of victimhood. We all know people like this. And I'll tell you that this is trainable. Okay, it's trainable to get out of, but most people who really have this strong external locus of control, a lot of them had some childhood trauma is a very strong contributor to having external locus of control, right? Because when you're young and vulnerable, if you were surrounded by chaos, if you were surrounded by addiction, if you were surrounded by a lack of stability and support and predictability in your life, you get used to this chaotic, the world happens to you, and then as you become adult, no one ever teaches you to take charge and that now you can control that. And so you never transition from this childhood perspective, or really it is an external locus of control, right? You don't have power over what's going to happen to you. To when you become adult, you just continue in that way. There's no transition to actually, no one can make me feel any way that I don't want them to make me feel, right? And psychologists have proved this. Hey, scientists have proved that this is trainable. You can switch that mindset, right? The human mind and the human beings are so malleable. We can train ourselves to live in almost any environment, in any mindset. We can learn to accomplish any tasks, right? And so I do get some pushback sometimes on saying, well, hey, it's just the way it is, or some people are more like that. Sure, some people are more inclined to be external locus control. Some people are more inclined to be internal locus control. Some people are more inclined to be faster runners. Some people are being slower runners. Doesn't mean you can't get better at running with time and effort. Just like anything else, it's trainable. But how do you train your mind to go from an external locus of control to an internal locus of control? Well, I think first you have to understand conceptually what's going on, right? So we've talked some concepts, and then we can talk about some practices to help get ourselves through the concepts to actually implement the internal locus of control. Internal locus of control is really about living in the present. It's about mindfulness. And why do I say that? Because the present is the only thing that you can control, right? People who constantly live in the past or worry about the past, you can't have an internal locus of control because you can't control the past. We can't control our future. That's why when we live in the past, people who constantly live in their mind is in what's happened before, they struggle with regret. They struggle with depression. People that live in the future, they're always worried about, this is going to happen, that tomorrow this could happen, and this could happen, and these people are going to do that. But what does that lead to? Anxiety. It's inevitable. If you allow your mind to live in the past or the future, it's impossible to have an internal locus of control because you don't control the past or the future. So you can't exist there. But what can you control? You can control the present right now. What you think, what you do, what you don't do. And so really having internal locus of control, be able to train that is really about being present. It's about mindfulness. It's about bringing yourself in the moment. Because right now, you've made a choice to be here to work on your mindset professional development. Right? No one is sitting there shoving, junk food in your face. No one's going to force you to work out. No one's going to force you to sit on the couch. These are all your choices. And so you have to master those things. So let's talk about two major concepts about living in the present and how we can think about this as we try to work ourselves to this point of presentness. Fault versus responsibility. If you grew up in an abusive, alcoholic family, it's not your fault. If you experienced some sort of trauma in your young life, it's not your fault. If you weren't exposed to new ideas, if you were insulated in an echo chamber, it's not your fault. If you lost a loved one to a disease or an accident too soon, it's not your fault. No one's saying these things are your fault that they happened. But fault is about the past. Responsibility is about the present. Because regardless of, maybe you did have a relationship fail, and maybe part of that was your fault. But those are two separate things. It doesn't even matter. What matters is responsibility. And right now in this moment, what you choose to do with it, the actions you take, the decisions you make, that is 100% your responsibility. If you make the choice, if you had some awful trauma, some things you just can't deal with, or relationships, or you were hurt and you can't get over it, and you're not seeking help, that's a choice. That's your responsibility. It's not your fault that it happened, but it's your responsibility to deal with it right now. If you're on your way to work and you get a flat tire, not your fault. But it's your responsibility to deal with it. And this sense of ownership brings us into the moment. Because the only thing that's real is the moment. This leads us to talk about the second concept, which is response versus reaction. What we need to train our minds to do as we strive for greatness, as we strive for this warrior's mindset, is to respond, not react. Reaction is what children do. Right? Input, boom. Whatever your emotions say to do, whatever happens, boom, you get right back at it, right? That's a reaction. Right? And young children physically can't, they're the front part of their brain, the logical frontal lobe has not been developed enough. And that's the reason that, kids, just like animals, can't hide their emotions. Right? Your dog can't make a conscious decision to pretend like it's not sad when it's sad. Neither can a child. It can't pretend not to be angry and show restraint. Neither can a child. But as fully functional adults, we can. And we must. So when something happens and you find yourself just immediately getting back, stop and breathe. That first breath can save you. It can save relationships. It can save awful decisions. It clears your head. And then you can see what's happening. What do I want to happen from this interaction? What do I want to happen from this scenario? What's my desired outcome here? What's the best outcome? Then you can take in what this person just said to you or what just happened to you. And you can decide, okay, I want X to happen. What do I need to do? How do I need to respond in order to make as likely as possible that I accomplish my desired end state? Then you respond with that. And maybe it is anger, right? Maybe it is sadness. Maybe it's violence. I mean, in a certain scenario, right? But we made the choice based on a desired outcome. We didn't let our immediate emotional response to a situation happen. Because when we do that, we give away control. Now we're living in an external locus of control because we allowed an external factor to determine our actions. We gave away sovereignty of our mind. We gave away sovereignty of our body to someone else. You're now a slave to the outside world. But when we respond, we become masters of our own mind. We become masters of our own bodies. And we decide, and we get to dictate, and therefore have as great an influence as possible on the outcome. Response, reaction. Take a breath. Think about the outcome you want to have happen, and then take the action that gives you the most likely event of your outcome. That's an internal locus of control. So let's talk about some action steps, right? To develop an internal locus of control, to nourish an internal locus of control, and to practice mindfulness and live with joy. First is what I call a 24-hour rule. This is how I live my life, whether something great happens to me or something bad happens to me. Something bad happens, I take 24 hours, and I mourn appropriately. Maybe it's small and it's not a big deal. I don't need to wait 24 hours if, I miss a deadline. I have to pay an extra fee on interest rate or something, right? Like I'm not gonna sulk for 24 hours about it. But maybe something else really bad did happen. Maybe I strove really hard and I failed in business, and maybe I messed up and had an argument with my significant other. Maybe I messed up with a child. Maybe whatever happened, right? Maybe someone I love got hurt or lost or had something bad happen to them. It's okay. Take 24 hours. You have to feel and work through those emotions, right? Same thing great happens. Maybe I close I close a major account, right? I've been striving and I finally hit my goal of running a 5K or whatever that is. Right? I won a jiu-jitsu tournament. Awesome. Take 24 hours. Enjoy the heck out of it. You've got to celebrate your wins and your losses. You got to celebrate your wins, and you've got to give yourself time to process losses. But 24 hours. At the end of 24 hours, you do an after-action report. What went well? What didn't? What are my lessons learned? How do I improve from this? You write them down, and you move on. It's done. Anymore, and you're living in the past again. Right? And maybe you live in the past too much. You're celebrating the win too much. A week later, now you're not in the moment and you're not optimal to enjoy the moment, to live in the moment, and to perform in the moment. So good or bad, 24-hour rule. Enjoy it, grieve it, mourn it, and then write down lessons learned. So you can learn from that experience, good or bad. You can progress as a human, good or bad. And you move on and stay in the moment. 24-hour rule is our first step. Our first, these aren't in order, but it's the first practical exercise you can do, right? To help live with internal locus control. Set up your calendar, focus on one thing at a time. Don't plan to multitask because you can't. I talk about this in the book, right? But we always say, well, I'm a good multitasker. No, you're not. No one is. It means your brain is bouncing from one thing to another. Our brain can only focus on one thing at a time. And we try to do if we try to do multiple things at once, we're pitting our own psyche, our own abilities in an unwinnable battle. And it's going to create friction. It's going to create anxiety and undue stress. It just biologically is. It's science. It's just who we are as human beings. So set yourself up for success, not failure, by making sure you're clearly planned out. From this time to this time, I'm doing this one thing. And then once it's done, cool. Or, hey, I've got it in a place that I can hold it, right? It's stable. I'm going to go deal with something else. I'm going to come back to this. But as soon as you try to do 2 or 3 things at once, your stress levels are going to go up. Your cortisol levels are going to go up. Your performance is going to go down. And your outcomes are going to go down. And you're not able to live in the moment because you're constantly bouncing around and your mind's trying to do too many things. So this takes mastery of calendar. We're going to talk more about the steps to master your calendar when we get to self-discipline. But don't plan to multitask. Focus on one thing at a time to live in the moment. Set up your environment for success. Turn off notifications on your phone. This is the worst thing in the world. If you notice, I have my phone here. It's on. It's always on silent. That's why people call me like, you never answer. Yeah, my phone's on silent. My phone only rings if my wife or my business partner calls. That's it. Otherwise, my phone doesn't ring. Because I'm not a slave to my phone. I have scheduled time to answer my phone and phone calls and texts. Because this is my tool. This is my tool for life. This is not my ball and chain to the rest of the world to get a hold of me wherever they want to. Now, I understand you might have, besides your spouse or something other, a boss or someone at work that they need to get a hold of you, especially during the workday. That's fine. You can switch it so that you get just their notifications. But you don't need Facebook notifications on. You don't need Instagram notifications on. You don't need any of that on. Email notifications, you don't need any of that. Turn all notifications off. So you can be in the moment. So you can be present. So you can take control, this internal control. I control my time and energy. This thing doesn't. I don't care. I'll put this thing downstairs for 8 hours. Because it's my life. Power of association is so powerful. So I'm in my office right now. When I present, if you can't notice, I'm moving around. I like to stand up because I like to talk standing. Right? And I'll put my desk down when I sit and do work. I have certain music that I listen to when I'm doing creative work. I have certain types of music that I listen to when I'm doing quantitative work or sort of like mindless emails that I don't need to focus. I only work in my office. I don't care. I've got 3 monitors up, right? I don't work on the couch or on the kitchen table. No, I work in my office. My office is for work. So when I walk in my office, I'm not as tempted, right? It's like Pavlov's dogs, right? We condition ourselves. We're creatures of habit and routine. So set yourself up for success. Don't scroll social media on your phone at your desk. Don't take naps in your bed. I don't sit down on my couch until my work is done for the day. I don't turn on my TV until I'm done working for the day. Maybe that's at 4 p.m., maybe it's at 8 p.m. The TV doesn't go on. Because now when I sit on my couch and I turn on the TV, I can be in the moment. I can actually relax. I don't sit on the couch and watch TV and answer work emails. If I'm going to do work, I'll go to my office. There's all these powerful tools, right? So you need to have one environment and one set of conditions for the state of mind and activities that you want to perform. I know you travel, all this stuff is not possible, right? But you can set these things up, right? I don't care if you travel all the time for work. You can decide what music you listen to when you do what types of work, and you'll trigger your mind to focus. And this stuff will take time. But once you create the habits, you'll get more and more efficient over time. Brings you in the moment. And you can do a bunch of mindfulness activities. I have a bunch of them in the book. I don't have time to go through all of them, right? But meditation or prayer, journaling, nature, go for walks. Make sure you set up time for prep and recovery. There's all these other activities you can do. But what I want to wrap with here, because I want to make sure we have some time for questions, is our life is nothing but a series of moments. The things we remember are special times that mean something to us and also aren't just routine. That's why we remember holidays and celebrations or the first time we discovered something. Because when those things happen, it forces us to be in the moment. And it's funny because I came up with this concept. I actually had I had a whole phrase about, our life is nothing but a series of moments. Never miss an opportunity to create a new one. And then literally this last week, watched a documentary about time. And they said the exact same thing. You know what this documentary said, right? It said that for a lot of people, even though their childhood is a small percentage of the total life, when they think back on their life, some people it's the majority or half of their memories. Because they stopped growing, they stopped doing new things. And the reality is we don't even remember those things. So time speeds up. All of a sudden, your life's gone. And what did you do? You did the same thing every day. You didn't push yourself. You didn't grow. You didn't discover new things. And it literally shrinks your perception of time. So if you want to have a long, fulfilling life, it means you need to be striving to do new things and create these moments and be present. Because if you're having external locus of control, you're always outside. If you're always worried about the past or the future, you're not even going to remember the present. You're not even here. And it's like it never happened. And you're shortening the perception of your whole life. At the end of the day, these special moments that we create, the present is the only reality. The past only exists as a neural connection, as an electrical impulse in our brain. That's the only. It's not a thing. The only thing that matters is right now. It's the only reality. And same thing about the future. You can't control it. So focus on the things you can control in the moment, in the present, and enjoy them. That's what life is. The moment. So hope you guys enjoyed that insight on internal locus of control and some of my thoughts on that. If you want to type in any comments, any questions on internal locus of control, any questions about the 6 Keys to Greatness or the book as a whole, anything. As people type that in, and I answer those last questions before anyone goes, if you're interested, besides obviously getting the book and reading the book, if you're interested in more of these concepts and about self-development for you as an individual, I have a private group called the Stronger Leaders Society that we just started. And it's a group that works with me every week. We set goals. We have private trainings. We have a whole resource center. So if you're looking to create optimization for yourself, right, then reach out to me about Stronger Leaders Society. If you're interested in development for your organization or business, okay, then we could talk about an elite leadership workshop, and I can do that in person or virtual. I'm happy to work with you on that. So any questions? Matt says, I love this one. It's important. How do you train yourself to focus on just the present? It's a good question. So those things I mentioned before, right? So have your time scheduled, right? So that you have a focus for the moment, right? Because if I just sit here and I'm just like, then whatever the world gives me, that's what I do next, right? If an email pops up, that's what I have to do. If my notification pops up, that's what I have to do. Whatever I just notice. But if I look and say, what am I doing? And I look at my calendar and it says, I'm doing this. I'm writing this content. I'm working on this lead. Then boom, cool, that's what I'm doing. And it gives me a focus. Without a focus, you're off in nowhere, right? So give yourself a focus for your time and set the environment up like we talked about. Set your environment up for success so you limit distractions and you create associations within your own brain. So create your work environment to optimize how you like to work. That includes music. Sometimes I put headphones on. I don't even put music on, but I just put them on because it blocks out the noise. It helps me focus because I get distracted. Right? So focus on one thing at a time and set your environment up for success, and then find whatever mindfulness exercises that work for you. Right? You have to focus on it. When you go for a walk and you find yourself thinking about what you're going to do later and your thoughts about whatever, bring yourself to the moment and listen to the birds. Look at the sunrise and let yourself just be fully in the moment and take one step in front of the other. PJ says, really enjoyed the 24-hour rule and after action report. Man, it's critical, man. It's critical to be able to move on and deal with those things. What I tell people, what I tell clients is, if something happens to you that's like trauma or bad, and you can't go through a 24-hour grieving process and then write out lessons learned and move on, if it's still nagging you that bad, you need to go get help. Go talk to somebody. Talk to a therapist, talk to your spouse, talk to somebody, because you obviously have more grieving to do to fully understand the complexity of what happened to you. All right, guys. Well, I'm glad everyone enjoyed that. Again, hopefully you're enjoying Where's Mindset, 6 Keys to Greatness. Let me know if you are interested in the Strong Leader Society or talking about workshops for your company. And if you do have the book, please go on Amazon and leave a review. I'll be making some announcements about a full-blown book tour. We'll have one in Nashville on the 18th next month. And I'm trying to come home, Brendan, back in Kansas, beginning of next year. And I'm going to try to do at least one book tour event every month next year. So hopefully I'll be out in your neck of woods. And don't forget, next week at 12:30 is our third Insight event. And it's a killer. You don't want to miss it, because we're going to talk about the North Star theory. I'm going to lay out the steps in the book and talk about how you actually identify and define a life's purpose, your North Star of where you're headed for your whole life. So thank you for spending a half hour with me, guys. I appreciate it. And we'll talk soon. Bye, all.